My next guest is an up-and-coming singer and songwriter who discovered the power of music during some of the lowest points in her life. Her dream of inspiring the masses through music became a reality when she released her first CD project, Tears for Fears. Queyonoh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. And I have to say, I'm loving the African print on is it, do you call it a brooch or what do you call it?
Something like it. It's just a flower, yes.
But the
thank you so much.
shoes, though, love. They can't see the shoes.
Can't see the shoes.
It's a shame I can't wear them shoes because there you go. Those are blessed and highly favored. But let's talk about your music. Your family hail from Liberia.
Yes, Liberia, West Africa.
But you were born in America. You're American for all intents and purposes.
I'm an African American.
African American. Tell us about your music. As I was saying, it was born out of some of the lowest points in your life. Tell us a bit about those points and what sort of music came out of it.
Well, as I began to progress as a young adult, as a teenager, I ran into a time in my life where I was depressed. I had a lot of struggles. I think I was going through, you know, the same thing every teenager goes through when they're, you know, trying to discover who they are. It just seemed like it was just very severe for me. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very depressive time in my life, and, you know, Christ was the only way out. Huh. It was through, you know, prayer and supplication and just seeking Him that I was able to discover His love for me, and the God of the Bible became real in my life. And as a result, I started to write songs and, you know, just express myself that way. And God has always communed with me that way through my songwriting and my singing. Let
me ask you, though, the title of your album, Tears for Fears. Mm-hmm. I mean, usually you hear tears for joy or joy for tears, or, you know, but tears and fears seem too negative emotions, but there must be an explanation behind it.
There is an explanation. The term Tears for Fears refers to the exchange of one emotion for another. So you're right with the emotional part. And I just found that throughout that time in my life where I was going through depression, and even when later in life when I had other dark times, that God does make that even exchange. He gives us beauty for ashes, strength for fear, gladness for mourning, and peace for despair. So it was in those times that I realized that even though I may be going through, you know, that God has an answer, and He's willing to make that exchange with me, that He'll take my ashes and make something very beautiful out of it. And I guess that kind of just is the explanation for the album, because each song kind of represents a time in my life and where I was at. You know, I have a song on that album called A Friend. Mm-hmm. And I wrote that song when I felt like I didn't have any friends. Right. I felt very alone, even though I was not. And so again, it was God just taking all of those negative things that I experienced and making something so beautiful out of it.
So the tears are sort of the fears melting away
as a result of the tears.
Wow. So let me ask you, though, skipping forward, because one of the things that's, I mean, it's hot in the headlines is what's happening in parts of Africa, yes. Liberia being one of them, which your family hailed from. How is what's going on with Ebola affected you and your family? Has it affected you and your family?
Well, it has. It has. We've had, you know, some fatalities as a result of the Ebola virus. But it's in those times even so that, you know, we still trust and pray and believe that God is going to bring an answer, and He's going to bring comfort. So we're just, you know, still praying and still, you know, keeping in contact with family and making sure they're well. And
now your music, you not only do your music here, you also have a project that you're involved in, the Halo project, where you're supporting children back in Africa. Am I correct?
Well, I partner with an organization called My Halo Project. And what they do is they provide support for Christ Children's Home, which is in Liberia, West Africa. Okay. And so since I partnered with this organization, I've had the opportunity to write a song for them. And when I go out and I minister, you know, I try to rally support for their cause. And I've had, you know, a little bit of success with that. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be able to give back. I always knew that my music would contribute to missions somehow.
So what's happening with the children at the moment with all that's going on? What's happening with your kids in Liberia?
Well, you know, fortunately, none of the children have been affected by the Ebola virus. But, you know, it's still a very dire situation. You know, they've had to quarantine themselves just to ensure that the children stay safe. And so many of the teachers are not working right now. They're not teaching the children. They're at home. And so my Halo, as well as Christ Children's Home, have had to continue to support the orphanage, even though they're not fully staffed.
So let's finish on your music. What are some of the testimonies you've heard as people have experienced your music both on CD and as you've ministered live? What are some of the things you've heard them say?
Well, of course, that I have a unique voice and a unique sound, but one thing that has really stuck out with me in terms of feedback is the fact that the sound is different and it's soothing. It's not traditional church music, you know, it's kind of music for, you know, everyday life, you know, for us to be able to listen to on the way home, for us to be able to maybe work out to, you know, stuff just to reach you in a way that maybe traditional music has not. So that's something that I'm very pleased with.
Now, what do your parents say about your music?
Of course, my parents love my music. My mother loves everything I write. Oh, Queyonoh, that's my favorite song. No, this is my favorite. Yeah, so, yeah, they're very supportive.
Now, for someone who does get hold of your album, what is your favorite song?
My favorite song is the title track. It's Tears for Fears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tears for Fears. And some of the lyrics are?
Well, as I think on the places I've been, all of my sins, my accomplishments, I'm glad I'm finally here. I've had scars to show for my years, but you've given tears for my fears and then wiped them away.
Queyonoh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.